Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Law Beyond the Books. Here we are again with another video lecture, and in this lecture we will discuss about the famous two maxim of law of torts, and also we will discuss about their landmark cases attached to the maxims. So we will start with our first slide, that is the slide related to the important terms of the maxims. So number one is injuria. Injuria means infringement of a legal right, or you can say it is an unauthorized interference with the plaintiff's legal right, or in general terms you can say an injury. So injuria means an injury, or you can say an infringement of someone's legal right, or you can say that there is an unauthorized interference with the person's right. Secondly, we have the term damnum. Damnum means substantial harm, or you can say substantial loss or deprivation of the property of some kind, property of any kind, and that means in short you can say damnum is a damages. Damages means a loss to a person. And that lastly we have the third word is sin. It means without. So we have three terms related to the two famous maxims of law of tort, that is injuria, that means injury, and damnum. Damnum means damages, and sin with means without. So moving forward to our next slide, that is about our first maxim, that is injuria sine damnum. So as we know, injuria means injury, sin means without, damnum means damages. That means injury without damages. By this maxim, we can say that a person can claim over the things in which an injury has been occurred to a person, but that injury does not include any kind of damages, or you can say loss or harm to a person. So we can say if there has been violation of a legal right, the same is actionable in nature, irrespective of the fact whether the plaintiff has suffered any loss or not. Therefore, whenever there is any injuria or violation of a legal right, you can say, the same has not been coupled with damnum or with you can say the harm to the plaintiff or loss to the plaintiff, still the plaintiff can bring a civil proceeding in a court of law raising the tortious liability, because according to this maxim, according to the principle over which the law of tort is based, that is the ubi jus ibi remedium, where there is a right there is a remedy. So every violation of a legal right has to be redressed according to the basic principle, jurisprudential principle of the law of tort. Second point, we have that this maxims includes only those torts which are actionable per se, as the law of torts has two kinds, and number one is the torts of those nature which are actionable per se, and secondly the torts which are actionable only on the proof of some damages. So according to this maxims, it includes only those which are actionable per se. Now the question arises, what kind of torts are actionable per se in nature? That means what kind of torts are which are be actionable without any proof of any damage or any loss. So we have an example of trespass. Trespass to a land is an actionable even though no damage has been caused as a result of the trespass. So this kind of tort can be termed as an torts which are actionable per se. And secondly, we have those kind of torts which are actionable only on the proof of some damages caused by an act, like we have the defamation. By defamation the person's reputations get harmed. So that means some damage, the damage of reputation has been done by an act of defendant. So that means this maxim, that is injuria sine damnum, only includes those torts which are actionable per se in nature. That means there is no need to prove that any kind of damage or loss or harm has been occurred to a person. The only thing which is need to be proved that there is a violation of legal right of the plaintiff. That means the injury has been occurred due to the violation of the legal right of plaintiff. Have the landmark case laws which explains the meaning of the maxim very well. Number one is the Ashby versus White. This is a case of the year 1703, and this is the leading case law which explain the maxim very well. As in this case, the plaintiff succeeded in his action even though the defendant's act did not cause any damage or harm to the plaintiff. So what was the fact of this case? The plaintiff was a qualified voter at the parliamentary election, but the defendant, who was a returning officer, wrongfully refused to take the plaintiff's vote. That means the defendant here prevented the plaintiff to exercise his legal right, that is to cast a vote in a parliamentary election. But in this case, no loss was suffered by such refusal of defendant, because the candidate for whom the plaintiff wanted to cast a vote only won the election, and it was held that the defendant was liable because according to Lord Holt Justice that there was the infringement of a legal right vested in a plaintiff, that is to cast a vote. So in this case, an injury has been done because of the act of the defendant, that is preventing that the defendant prevented the plaintiff to cast a vote, but there was no damages caused to him. So this case fall under the category of this particular maxim. And we have another case related to this maxim, that is Singh versus State of J&K 1986, and the facts were that the petitioner, who was an MLA of J&K Assembly, was wrongfully detained by the police officer while he was on his way to attend the assembly session. He was also not produced before the magistrate within the requisite period, that is 24 hours, and as a consequence of this, the member was deprived of his constitutional right to attend the assembly session. Also, there was violation of fundamental right to personal liberty guaranteed under Article 21 of Indian Constitution. Therefore, the court held that there was violation of a legal right due to mischievous and malicious act of the police officer, and the Supreme Court granted an exemplary damages of rupees 50,000 to the plaintiff. As there was no damages has been suffered by the plaintiff, but there was an infringement of legal right of him, this case also falls under this particular maxim. So by these two case laws, landmark case laws, we can say that if there has been a violation of a legal right, the same is actionable in nature irrespective of the fact whether the plaintiff has suffered any loss or not. That is the maxim, that is injury without damages. Moving forward to our next slide, that is damnum sine injuria, which is our second maxim. Damnum sine injuria. Damnum means damages, we know. Sine means without, and injuria means injury. So damages was suffered, but that is without any injury. It means damage without the infringement of plaintiff's lawful right. And the second point is it covers all those acts which are harmful in nature but not wrongful in nature, and gives no right of the action to the plaintiff who suffers from their effects. That means damages so done and suffered is called damnum sine injuria. That means damages was there, but that damages is without any injury, and such damages without any breach of a legal right, that kind of damages will not constitute a tort. Causing of damage to another person is not actionable in law unless there is also violation of legal right of the plaintiff. The mere fact that the man is injured by another's act gives in itself no cause of action until and unless that action includes the violation of a legal right. So where the persons where the act of any person causing damage to any person, but that damage does not include any infringement or violation to the legal right of a person, that will not constitute a tort. That means the person cannot claim over that damages in which no injury has been occurred. That will not consider as a tort. So we have two leading case laws related to damnum sine injuria. So firstly we have Gloucester Grammar School Masters case 1410, and the facts were the defendant, who was a schoolmaster, set up a rival school to that of the plaintiffs. Because of the competition, the plaintiffs had to reduce their fees from 40 pence to 12 pence per scholar per quarter. That reduction of fees was the damages which was suffered by the plaintiffs, but that damages were without any infringement of a legal right of the plaintiffs. So it was held by the court that the plaintiff, who was also a schoolmaster, had no right to complain of opening a new school rivalry to the plaintiff, and the damages which was suffered by them was just a mere damage which did not involve any kind of injury or violation of a legal right of them. So in this case the defendant was not liable for a tortious liability. Another case we have Mughal Steamship Company versus M. Gregor Go and Company 1819 and 2. What was happened in this case? The defendant's steamship companies wished to monopolize the China tea carrying trade. Therefore, they combined together to offer reduced freight in order to induce shippers to employ them. That means a number of steamship companies combined together and drove the plaintiff company out of tea carrying trade by offering reduced freight to them. Therefore, the plaintiff alleged that the defendant had willfully caused loss to them by compelling certain merchants in China to cease to act against their agent by means of threat, and if they continue to do so, the agency of defendant association will be withdrawn from them. Also, the plaintiff brought an action for conspiracy against the defendant, but the House of Lords held that there was no cause of action, as it is being justifiable measure of self-protection on the part of the association to prevent the same person from occupying the inconsistent position of agents for both for the association and the plaintiff. Therefore, the defendants were held no liable, for their object was just to protect and extend their trade, and they had not used any unlawful means. In this case, the damages was suffered, the loss was suffered by the plaintiff because of the withdrawal of that company, but that damages did not include any violation of his legal rights, and the defendant was not held liable for any tortious liability. So by these two cases we can say that where there is a damage suffered by any person, but that damage does not include any violation of a legal right, that will not constitute a tort. Therefore, it is not enforceable in nature. So, this is all about our topic of discussion in today's lecture about two famous maxims. The only thing we need to remember is that there are two landmark cases attached to two famous maxims, and the first maxim was enforceable in nature because there is violation of legal right, whereas the second maxim is not enforceable in nature even though the damage is there, because there is no violation of any legal right. So, thank you so much for being there, and I have a nice day from the side of Law Beyond the Books. Thank you.